Hey, 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 now come on in, come on in. We'll be getting started here in just a moment. If you're joining me live, let me know that you're here. Just wave at me in the comments. Let me know where you're joining in from. Drop a comment just so I know that you're here. We're going to get into a very real conversation today about leadership, about integrity, and what happens when your personal life becomes the public moments. We're talking about Andy Byron on today. So, again, if you're joining me live, go ahead and just wave at me to let me know that you're here and where you're joining from. Go ahead and grab your tea, your coffee, your protein shakes, your water. If you're me trying to get in your water, go ahead and grab your water. And we're going to have this very, very deep conversation today about leadership, integrity, and what happens when your personal life becomes the public moment. Because it is definitely that kind of day. Hey, y'all, again, just jump on in, wave at me, and tell me where you are joining from if you're joining me live. Y'all, again, we're having this conversation today about Andy Byron. I was over here minding my business, working, and decided that I was going to peruse these little social media streets. And I was like, whoa, uh, what a teachable moment. So, yeah, it really is that kind of day. We are talking about Andy Byron on this morning and some leadership and integrity lessons that we learned from this very private moment turned public. So again, go ahead and grab your snacks. It's almost lunchtime, y'all, too. So go ahead and grab your snacks if you want to. If you're watching this replay, hey to you also. You can go ahead and just jump right into the conversation. You can skip ahead if you need to. But if you're live, you already know it's all about community. So go ahead and say hey in the chat and let me know you're here again. And real quick, make sure that you go ahead and hit that like button. So that YouTube knows that this conversation is one that leaders need to actually hear, right? And we will go ahead and jump into the conversation. All right, y'all. So, again, I told y'all I'm sitting here perusing these social media streets and I am inundated with post after post after post after post about our dear friend Andy Byron, right? Because the internet did what the internet does. And it found a moment and it has very much so become a viral moment and left us all literally trying to process what actually happened, right? So if you haven't heard by now, Andy Byron, the CEO of Astronomer, he was actually caught in what appears to be a very personal moment with his chief people officer. Let's just say it looked a little bit more like HR probably needs to talk to you Monday than I'm here for the music moment, right? So the thing is, that very private moment exploded. And now, not just because of what happened, but because of who it happened to. And so it all played out very publicly. And now we see this private lapse in his life as well. And when you're a leader, that literally changes the whole game, right? So today we're not here to gossip about Andy Byron. We're really here to actually grow. And I want to challenge leaders to see this as a teachable moment and even a moment to grow. Because I mean, I'm answering the question, what does this mean for leaders, for leadership culture? How do we handle private moments like these when leadership's private lives actually collides with their personal life? And what do we do when the private lives of people who we're entrusting for public influence, when they show up in untrustworthy ways, right? So that's kind of like what we're discussing today. And I have a few takeaways that I just kind of want to talk about. Um, Because the truth is, like, really, nobody really wants to say this out loud, but leadership doesn't clock out when you do. Like, you don't show up to work and put on a leadership hat, and then when you clock out, you take it off. You don't get to turn off your example when you're off the clock. Whether you're in the boardroom, whether you're in the break room, if you're, I mean, at a Coldplay concert, maybe, you still are carrying the weight of somebody else's trust, right? So I just want to pause and say this. This is not a bash session um, of Andy Byron. This is literally a let us learn from what just happened so that it stops repeating, right? Because I truly believe that your private choices, it shapes your public credibility, especially when you're a leader. And so just some key takeaways that I wanted to walk us through. Number one, integrity is not a part-time gig, right? You cannot be full of integrity only when you're on the clock. You can't be values driven only at work and values optional when you're off work. Because sooner or later, what happens is those worlds will collide. And when they do, people will remember how you made them feel more than what you said in your mission statement. And I'm sure that as the CEO of Astronomer, Byron, he's probably preached values over and over again, values that he wants his employees to possess. But when your private life is anything but those values, then what people will start doing, and we're starting to see even some of this, where some of the employees are starting to talk about the culture and the toxicity of the culture. And so when you're living double lives, in essence, you're stating one value with your lips, but then you're living another set of values, then it calls into question whether or not, people really can trust you. And so people will then remember, okay, well, this is what you preached, but this is what you lived. And there's this tension between who you are in person, in private versus public. And it's hard for people to reconcile that. And so that leads us to the point of there's no such thing as private when you are a public leader, when you're a leader in the public. If you think that your private life is off limits, just ask the Jumbotron at the Coldplay concert. It's not. You can check TikTok, Reddit. When you lead, your life becomes a billboard. And this has happened time and time and time again, the moral failures of leaders in public. And so even if you don't ask for it, you just have to understand that your private life is a part of the package. And so it's unfair. I can agree with that. Yes, it's unfair. You should be able to do whatever you want to do in your private life and not have to answer to people, but it's also real. It doesn't matter how unfair you feel it is, it's real. And we have to lead with this awareness that whatever I do in private, it has the potential to come out in public. And if it's not the same person, if it's not the same values, then it's going to create problems, right? And so a third thing that I wanted to bring out in this that I've discovered and I wholeheartedly believe is that the silence shapes the narrative. Now, that's the kicker. He hasn't released a statement, at least at this point, right? And the statement or the apology that went public or that went viral, it's fake. But people are actually believing it because it just seems like what a leader should do. It seems like what a leader should say. And so in seeing that and hearing that and understanding leadership in the way that I do, it shows us something very important, that when a leader messes up, people don't need your perfection, right? What they need is your humility. They want ownership, and the silence does not protect your image. Okay. I'm pretty sure that right now his PR team is probably trying to whip up this nice little statement that will kind of soften the blow a little bit. But in this moment, as leaders, I need us to understand that people do not want your pretty, polished PR spin. They really want humility, right? They want you to own what you did. They want you to own how it made them feel. They want you to own the tension that you created between living two different lives, right? They want they just want humility, and they want you to own it. And again, silence, not saying anything, does not protect you. It does not protect your image. It literally just hands your image over to the internet. It hands your image over to the speculators. It hands the narrative over to the people who are waiting to hear something from you, but because of your silence, they feel like, well, this is what's happening. This is a story. This is the best story we can tell, or that we can get from this, right? So you don't protect your image. You actually yield control of your image over to the speculators. And the final thing that I wanted to talk about today was just how what we do in private impacts our teams, right? People want to be able to trust their leaders. And it's not just because they're competent, not just because they're good at their job, but because they are consistent in every way. So when something like this happens, it doesn't just break trust at home. Now, we can talk about the whole narrative of the wife and the family, if they have children. I mean, like the community leadership and trust aspect. We can talk about all of that, how it's impacted by this. But more specifically, leaders who are in corporate spaces, it literally calls into question, can I trust you as a leader? Not just that you're doing a good job in your work, but that you're consistent in every way. So again, when something like this happens, it breaks trust at home, but it definitely fractures our trust at work, right? So just as a checkpoint, and just, I just want to know what you think. Should a leader's personal life be fair game when it comes to public accountability? Drop a thumbs up in the comment section if you think it should be, and a thumbs down if you think that their private life just needs to remain private. And, thinking emoji if you're still unsure about it. I actually want to hear your take, and I'll scroll back through the chat after this live post just to kind of see the general consensus. Do you think that a leader's public life or private life should be fair game, or should it be off limits? Thumbs up if it's fair game, thumbs down if it's off limits, or a thinking emoji if you're still unsure. But while you're thinking and while you're commenting, I just want to be clear that I understand leaders are human. I'm a leader. I'm human. I'm infallible. I'm fallible. I'm not infallible. I make mistakes, right? We all will make mistakes. We will all stumble. But leadership multiplies the impact far better or far worse, depending on what you do. If what you do is good, then the impact of it's far better, right? Than just an average person. But when you're a leader and you do something bad, or you have a moral failure, the impact of that is far worse than just the average person. If you mess up in private, it can leave public damage when you're a leader. And that's why it's important for us to live aligned. Now, again, not perfect, but aligned. And when I say alignment, I mean we are really trying to live out the values that we say we value, right? It's not good to just offer lip service and not lived service, right? And so making sure that we're aligned as leaders is the key to this. And integrity is not about image. So trying to present a perfect image is not helpful, but it's about the wholeness. It's about the complete package, right? It's about leading the same way in your DMs that you are in your living room, right? It's about leading the same way in the office. And yes, even when you're vibing at a Coldplay concert, be who you are always. And people will respect and they will admire your consistency. And so I want to leave with this. I'm actually really praying for Andy's family. I'm praying for his team and even for him, because this is painful. even if it's self-inflicted, even if it's a lapse in his own judgment that led him here, it's still very painful when the reality of your actions finally hit. But it's also redemptive if it's handled with humility. And that's true for all of us, right? So if this is a challenge that you want to reflect on as a leader, right? If this has challenged you in a way to reflect on your own leadership, go ahead and do me a favor. Tap the like button. Subscribe if you're not already connected with me. Share this with some other leaders. Share this with somebody that you know that's carrying the weight of leadership right now. And let's keep showing up. Like, let's keep growing and let's keep leading, right? And not just when we're in the spotlight, but let's lead in the shadows too. Let's lead in those private moments, right? So that ultimately, when people encounter the wholeness of us, they know that they are authentically and consistently getting the same person. So that's it for me for now. I got to go grab some lunch. Hopefully, this has empowered somebody. Hopefully, it's helped you to reflect on your leadership. Hopefully, I said something to help you grow and just consider your leadership stance and the consistency and the humility that you lead with. So watch the Jumbotrons. And I will see y'all in the community. I'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all have a blessed day.